Hi again, Andy here. Carrying on with what I was calling a deep dive into the part modeling interface in Solidworks. So carrying on with what we did a moment ago, I want to show you some of the tools and some of the ways to work with this, and then we'll get to making something that is practical. But for now, bear with me, we're just going to make some weird blocks and things like that. So let's get started. Here we are back with the part that I made in the previous video. It's kind of wonky. In fact, it's really wonky. But the nice thing is that it's almost entirely based upon this original sketch. If we open up this revolve, it's also based on sketch 1. Now I made a new sketch for the second part, but that's because there really wasn't a way to use that original sketch in a different plane. So let's go back to this original sketch, and we can edit it. And you see when we edit it, it's buried within our original geometry. And if I go up to the view planes, I can just see it from the 2 dimensions. A bunch of things I didn't do before was I didn't actually put dimensions on. And we always pretty much need dimensions in a sketch. And so I'm going to make that a 3mm diameter hole. I'm going to make this, I actually want this to be 25mm. And I want this to be 27mm, let's say. Now I already constrained it such that this 20mm thing was had its center line horizontal to this, and if I click on the center point, you'll notice that it has existing relations shown here on the left. One existing relation is that it's horizontal. If I highlight that, it shows me what it's horizontal to, and it shows me the distance, and the distance it's away from that is also from here to there. Now I can delete one of those. Oops. I can delete one of those. There. Okay, well, it's not letting me delete that. Oh, it's not letting me delete that because there's a part following on that is dependent upon that distance. So be it. I can change that radius. Should be able to. Whoops, hitting the escape key sometimes gets you out of a tool you don't want to use. Yeah, so that's giving me a radius of 30 because that's what I'd set before, but I want that to be a little smaller. I want that to be 20. So now it's closer to this block. And you'll see when I finish that, the part's a little different. I can also go back to this extrusion that I had, and that was kind of big. I really want it to be a 3mm thick thing. And another thing that's interesting about it, when I made this, I started off with a sketch thinking that it was at the bottom of the part, and then I'm finding I'm revolving this circle around that, and that's giving me a bit of a weird geometry. I can actually choose different kind of directions. If I pick mid-plane, and it's 3mm thick, then it actually uses the sketch of it as if it's a cross-section in the middle of the part. So you can see it moved from on the plane to above and below the plane by an equal amount. And now if I take that, it's a different part altogether. It's kind of weird. And I can do all kinds of edits to this. I'm going to make this only 5mm now. And if I make too much of a change, it can't quite figure it out for me. But there, now that's a different sort of thing. Looks different. just based upon the geometry. Now, one of the things you'll notice when there's an error and it doesn't quite know what you want to do, it will not build the feature. The earlier features are fine, but this feature is having a bit of a problem. And so it shows up with a red X, and it's not there. And the entire history and the part itself has a red X. So that's a problem. We have to fix this. We could try and rebuild it, but the red X is still there. We could try and save it. It will tell you that there's a rebuild error and ask if you want to save it anyway. I'm just going to cancel that. So we need to fix this error. Now if we open up that part, I can see the problem. I told it to cut through space that is not actually anything solid. So it's asking me basically, are you sure? That's not really going to work very well. So I can see that that's a problem. If I try and click the check mark, it will keep giving me the error and it won't let me go back. So I'm going to have to click cancel, and now it's showing me this this highlight. So it's changed its error message, but it's the same problem. The only way to fix it is to go and open up the sketch, and I can redraw the sketch. In this case, I don't really want to redraw the sketch just specifically the same way I'd drawn it. In fact, what I want to do is change the plane. Now, I originally told it to go on that plane. I think I want to do that sketch on that plane. And it did it. Not exactly the way I want, but now it's not giving me an error. Now I can change the location or dimensions of that hole. And maybe I want it to be like that. So now I've got this funky looking plate that's welded inside or molded inside of a ring, and it's all one solid thing. So this isn't a ring going through a hole, this is a solid thing. There's a lot of other tools that we can use, and those features, as we use them, will all show up here in this feature tree. And if we want to simplify, we can roll back here, as I've just shown you. I can add a new feature. Let's say I'll add a fillet. A fillet is a bit of rounding. I'm going to make it a fillet with a 2mm arc, and I'm just going to fillet that corner and that corner. And you can see that it's going to show me what it will try to do. And there, it's made a nice little curved transition. And it's put it wherever the blue line was. So if I roll it back down, you can see in the sequence, this will be different. May not seem like that matters, but let's say I'm going to modify this. And let's suppose I'm going to change the shape of that square so it's just longer and skinnier. And you can see that it's overlapping where my fillet was. And it didn't like that. Why didn't it like that? Well, we can ask it. It says unable to create this feature because it would result in zero thickness geometry. What does that mean? I think it means that, oops, if I go and edit the feature, that, see, it was going to cut in that direction, but because the fillet tapers out to this circle, I'm asking it essentially to have a really, really sharp edge there that's not really feasible. So maybe that wasn't what I wanted to do. Maybe I could do a slight modification and instead of going and cutting in the direction as shown, I could also cut in the other direction. Maybe not quite as much as that, but enough to cut through the taper. And you can see it fixed that. So it cut through the radius. Now, I mentioned that the order of these things, or I will mention that the order of these things is kind of important. And you can see here that we made the radius before we made the cut, and it shows up like this. What if we take this radius and I just left click on it and I move it below that cut? It looks kind of the same, but now I could say, well, you know, the feature that I want to radius the edge of includes all of these. See if that works. Oh, didn't like that. I tried to make these edges too close. So if I make a smaller radius, sometimes that helps. Oh, still didn't like that. Sometimes I find filleting of things is the most annoying task. There we go. Just because some of the rules that it abides. And so in this case you can see that it filleted these things, everything as well. If I took the fillet and I did it there, it won't let me move it because it already has elements of that cut in the definition. But the order of operation is important. So I'll stop there. We've done some changes to it, and I've shown you some more features in the feature tree and shown you a little bit about editing and using the feature tree to sort out your diagrams. So thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.